19 years old, barely trained, and shipped to England with a 1 in 4 chance of surviving. This was the reality for B-17 tail gunners over Germany in 1943. Alone in a frozen plexiglass bubble, they defended the crew's blind spots against wave after wave of Luftwaffe attacks. Strategic planners promised victory by daylight, but their math condemned thousands to die. Why did America keep sending teenagers into the deadly job in the air war? And what did it take to survive even one mission? Training began with a list of names and a number. 10 men to a crew, 6 weeks to learn how to survive. At 19, most had never flown before. The Army Air Forces sent them to places like Maxwell Field and Tyndall, where mornings started with the sharp crack of clay pigeons. Instructors barked orders over the range, pushing boys to hit moving targets with shotguns, teaching them to lead just enough. Practice for a fighter closing in at 400 miles per hour. Classroom days drilled aircraft silhouettes and range estimation, memorising the shapes of enemy Me-109s and FW-190s. The gunnery sergeant, always a combat veteran, never sentimental, reminded every class, in the tail, you're alone, and you're the last line. By week 3, the .50 caliber Brownings came out. Trainees learnt to load, clear jams, and fire short, controlled bursts. On the range, the air filled with the thunder of twin guns, belts of ammunition rattling through cold hands. Mistakes meant missed targets. On a mission, mistakes meant empty seats at breakfast. The ODDs were spelled out early. Finish 25 missions, you go home. But only 1 out of 4 would make it. Some wrote the number on their lockers, others tried not to think about it at all. After graduation, each man's name was typed onto a manifest: pilot, co-pilot, navigator, bombardier, engineer, radio operator, ball turret, 2 waist gunners and the tail, orders stamped for England. There was no ceremony, just a train to the coast, then a ship across the Atlantic, and the knowledge that the real test was still to come. In 1943, the 8th Air Force was ordered to strike deep into Germany, no matter the losses. Washington demanded results: destroy the factories, break the Reich's war machine. Every new crew arriving in England stepped into a campaign shaped by numbers and necessity. The official line promised daylight precision would shorten the war, but the reality was arithmetic. 25 missions for a ticket home, but only 1 in 4 crews finished the tour. Recruitment posters back home showed grinning gunners, the slogan, "Join the Air Corps, defend the fortress," masking the truth behind the statistics. The Luftwaffe adapted fast. German radar, the Himmelbett system, tracked bomber streams from the moment they crossed the channel. Controllers funneled fighters into tight attack boxes, guiding Bf-109s and FW-190s to the 6 o'clock low, the tail gunner's domain. Every formation that pressed toward the Ruhr or Schweinfurt ran a gauntlet set by ground control. In these Himmelbett sectors, waves of fighters would appear right where the tail was most exposed. Commanders like General Ira Aker and later Jimmy Doolittle knew the odds. Still, the raids went forward. The August 17th Schweinfurt-Regensburg mission lost 60 bombers in a single day. October 14th, Black Thursday, saw 77 more fall. Escort fighters were promised, but P-47 Thunderbolts could only reach part way. It wasn't until late 1943 that drop tanks began extending their range, and even then, the final miles to the target belonged to the bombers alone. The strategy demanded sacrifice. The tactical reality meant the tail gunner's view was the last defence against a system designed to kill from behind. Crawling past the waist guns, you squeeze into the tail, knees drawn up, back hunched, shoulders pressed against curved plexiglass. The turret is barely bigger than a coffin, every surface cold to the touch. 2.50 caliber. Brownings jut behind you, each with 500 rounds, their feed chutes rattling with every bump. There is no armour back here, just thin metal and glass. At altitude, it is minus 60 degrees outside. The only thing between your skin and frostbite is an electrically heated suit, wires running through the fabric, plugged into a socket by your left knee. The suit is a gamble. Wiring shorts, plugs shake loose, and if the system fails, the cold bites through in minutes. Fingers stiffen, toes go numb. You check your oxygen line, trace it from the mask to the regulator, knowing a frozen valve or a pinched hose means blackout and death before anyone notices. The interphone is your only lifeline to the crew, but static and ice sometimes cut you off. The guns themselves are simple, hand-cranked, no power assist. Oil thickens in the cold, and a jammed belt means you are defenceless. In the tail, you are alone with your breath fogging the glass, the world behind shrinking to a tunnel of sky, flak, and the promise of enemy fighters. Every system is a weak link, and every failure is personal. At 0500 hours, the barracks lights snap on. Collins, the pilot, stands at the front of the briefing hut, voice steady as he reads the target. Schweinfurt, ball-bearing works. Chalk lines on the map trace the route over the channel, across flak belts, deep into the Reich. No one jokes about a milk run. The operations officer points to the losses from yesterday. Empty hard stands, names erased from the duty roster. Each man receives a flak vest, 20 pounds of steel plates that might stop a fragment, might not. The tail gunner checks his heated suit connections, tests the oxygen mask, fingers the interphone plug. Ammunition is counted, 500 rounds for each point, 50 caliber. Belts loaded with tracers every 5th round. Collins moves down the line with a clipboard, eyes meeting each crewman's. Questions? Silence. Outside, engines cough to life in the dark, exhaust plumes glowing against the mist. Crews climb aboard. The tail gunner, last, crawling through the waste to his post. The ground shudders as 4 engines roar, wheels lifting from English soil. Formation assembles by first light. Bombers turning east. Every man knows the clock is running now. Enemy coast in less than an hour. Flak bursts snap past the tail, rattling shrapnel against the skin. The interphone crackles. Bandits, 6 o'clock low. And the first wave of Me-109s closes in. They come fast, 2 at a time, closing the distance from 1,000 yards to point blank in seconds. The combined speed hits 500 miles an hour. Moran squeezes the triggers, both .50 caliber Brownings hammering, tracers streaking out in 5-round ladders. The guns buck in frozen hands, oil thick from the cold. He leads the target, aiming ahead of the cockpit. Short bursts only, too long and the barrels overheat, too slow and the enemy is already gone. A fighter flashes past, cannon shells walking up the fuselage. The tail shudders as a round punches through, glass fragments spinning in the slipstream. Moran's right gun jams, belt frozen, nothing to do but clear it by feel, eyes never leaving the next set of wings angling in. The bomb run starts. 10 minutes straight and level, no evasive turns, every gunner exposed. Flak thickens, a solid wall ahead. Bombs drop with a jolt. The ship leaps as the load releases. Fighters don't wait. Another pass, another burst, another jam. The only thing that matters is keeping the tail alive until the formation can turn for home. Crossing the coast, the formation thinned. Fuel gauges hovered near empty, engines coughed, and wounded men bled quietly in their stations. Some ships trailed smoke, others vanished from the radio. The channel was a final hurdle, bombers limping home, risk ditching in cold water, crews clinging to rafts if they made it out at all. Every return meant counting the survivors. Moran craned in the tail, searching for familiar markings, tallying which ships made it back to base. The ground crews waited, scanning the horizon for missing friends. On August 17, 1943, after the Schweinfurt-Regensburg raid, 60 bombers failed to return, 600 men gone in a single day. October 14, black. Thursday, 77. More B-17s were lost. Some missions saw 30% of crews cut down before their tour was half over. The mathematics of loss became routine, names erased from rosters, bunks left empty. For every bomber that landed, 3 never finished their 25th mission. By nightfall, the cost was written in hard numbers on a chalkboard, and tomorrow would bring another tally. The arithmetic was merciless, and everyone understood what it meant to be the last gunner in the tail. Today, fewer than 1% of our WW2 aircrew remain alive to testify to what it cost to hold the line at 25,000 feet. As new conflicts are fought with machines, the reality of human risk grows distant, but the courage it demanded remains the measure. Their silence is our responsibility.